Val Kilmer has put more time in it than any other actor has in an animated film. He has never turned us down when we've asked him to come back, even if it was for one single line, to just make that dialogue read a little bit better in the movie, be a little bit stronger performance.
You saw what happened. I just killed a man.
To me, it's very reminiscent of theater, which I spent a lot of time studying, and rhythms of speech and the importance of each phrase and the kind of work that I've rarely had a chance to do as an actor in film. It is a timeless story.
And I can no longer hide in the desert while they suffer.
It's an extraordinary achievement.
Talked at length about the Prince of Egypt in what I think is the longest analysis video based on the Prince of Egypt you're ever going to find on YouTube. No doubt someone in the comment will probably be eager to try to beat me on that, but my analysis video there was about the same length as this movie that I'm reviewing. One of these days, somebody's going to make an analysis video that's longer than my one, but that just goes to show just how in-depth this movie is. This movie, let's just get straight to the point, is an absolute masterpiece, even despite all of its shortcomings. It is amazing. It works for children, it works for adults, it works as a musical, it works as an animated work of art that deserves to be put as an example of the best, the peak example, the example that all animators should thrive for when it comes to excellence in animation storytelling.
Hundreds of artists, technicians, animators, and musicians, 4 years to bring to the screen. A film that Dreamworks founders David Geffen, Steven Spielberg, and Jeffrey Katzenberg were determined to create.
So, I'm going to try my best to try to mention elements that work about this movie that I probably didn't mention in my analysis video. And I'll try to make this video as brief as possible, because there have been so many people who have absolutely applauded this film despite how underrated it is. Honestly, it might have just built a following just by its reputation online at this point. Slavery of the Hebrew people under Egyptian rule, the genocide of the baby boys, the sparing of Moses, how he was adopted into the Egyptian royal family, and then all the events leading up to the Hebrew people escaping Egypt, hence the title Exodus, as well as briefly depicting Moses with the 10 Commandments. It doesn't really go any further for this particular adaptation. If you want to see an adaptation that showcases what happens after the events depicted in The Prince of Egypt, you're probably best sticking with the 10 Commandments movie, which The Prince of Egypt has taken a lot of inspiration from. Keep in mind, the 10 Commandments wasn't the only key inspiration from this film. The gorgeous aesthetics of this movie gets a lot of inspiration from another epic called Lawrence of Arabia. It takes advantage of all the colors and aesthetics you get from that culture, and this movie is deliciously feastful for the eyes. And to top that, the people working on The Prince of Egypt were creative and genius enough to actually tell the mood of the story via coloring. Seriously, there are so many nuanced ways that the people behind the scenes have enhanced the story, and 4 years worth of animation effort was absolutely worth it for this astonishing movie. It's got it all. It's got the epicness of Ben-Hur and Lawrence of Arabia and the 10 Commandments, and many people, including myself, say that the Prince of Egypt adaptation even surpasses the 10 Commandments movie it was inspired by. Which seems a bit odd to say, because the 10 Commandments movie was definitely more of a cinematic landmark in regards to the impact on filmmaking history. Definitely the 10 Commandments movie was revolutionary for its time with its astonishing special effects. There's no denying that. But in regards to overall storytelling and execution of things like characterization and pacing and so on and so forth, the Prince of Egypt did it better. That's not to say the 10 Commandments didn't, it's just the Prince of Egypt just does it better. Part of the reason why it does it better is because of the way it showcases certain characters, especially in regards to the relationship between Moses and Ramesses. This aspect of the movie is what gravitates older audiences to the movie. I mean, there's something in it for everyone of every age and generation, but
As a child hearing this story, you could never possibly understand it the way you understand it now.
I've noticed that what attracts older audiences is the feud between Moses and Ramesses.
It's got real spiritual themes and ideas in it.
In this particular adaptation of The Prince of Egypt, this adaptation creatively takes advantage of the fact that Moses was indeed raised by this Egyptian royal family. And so in this adaptation, Moses has to confront that part of his life head on. He was ashamed of this upbringing when he found out his true heritage. And he has to tell Ramesses, who is his brother in this adaptation, that what he's doing is wrong. And on top of that, Ramesses isn't just a straightforward villain here. He's a very tragic villain, played brilliantly by Ray Fiennes.
It's a brother story, really, of two brothers that fall apart, you know, that relate, that become estranged to the point where they're completely opposite.
Both of these men care about each other in a way that doesn't make their calling or responsibilities incidental.
They're enemies. But when brothers are enemies, they don't stop being brothers.
And with this depiction of Pharaoh, you can sense the generational pressure to succeed. And it's all the more enhanced with the great performance from the late Val Kilmer. Fun fact, you probably know this already, but Val Kilmer also lended his vocal performances to portray God as well, which can make for some interesting interpretations. A good interpretation for this casting choice is to imply that God is the voice of Moses' consciousness, and this voice of consciousness is our calling for action, which is thematically appropriate for this movie as Moses is called into the action of freeing the Hebrew people. Honestly, there are so many little details I could point out. The fact that when Moses turns the river Nile into blood, the portion of the river that he's standing on is the only bit that isn't covered in blood. There's other details like the fact that the filmmakers didn't hold back on the gritty details, the fact that there is still this hopeful message through it all, and the fact that the musical songs actually enhance this particular adaptation and progress the story forward like all good musical sequences should. There's a reason why the song When You Believe became such a sensation, and to this day it's one of the most popular songs brought out by the Dreamworks company. I have mentioned that this movie does have shortcomings. For example, this movie is not entirely accurate to the Judeo-Christian scriptures. In the scriptures, it's described that Moses' brother Aaron actually had a more active role in backing up Moses in persuading the Pharaoh to let the people go. In fact, it was Aaron who did a lot of the public speaking and miracles alongside with Moses, because Moses was pretty timid with the public speaking problem, to the point where God was gracious enough to even allow Moses to have his brother Aaron back him up. Whereas in the Prince of Egypt movie, Aaron plays the role of the doubter who eventually is won over to Moses' side. It's inaccurate to what scripture describes, but it doesn't detract from the heart of the story. So some nuances there could be lost. Also, some people might find some of these celebrity voices a bit distracting. Martin Short, Steve Martin, and Jeff Goldblum. Life finds a way. Ha ha ha. Hey, look at my abs. My abs. I've been working out for roles like that one movie I made. Well, several movies made with dinosaurs. You know, those big lizards God made during Genesis times, and then they sort of drowned out. Ha ha ha. But fortunately, these actors do have the proper characters to portray, and it fits the overall tone that the movie is going for. And you eventually, as Doug Walker said, warm up to these voices associated with these specific characters. And all of these actors are very experienced with the kinds of roles that they're portraying here. There are others who say that some of the character designs are quite cartoonishly distracting in relation to the more historically grounded characters that fit the scriptural context. But again, it's not too much of a distraction. In fact, some of these goofy character designs actually elevate the more light-hearted moments that the children can enjoy, specifically with some of the animal designs. Something I don't think I've mentioned before is the music. And I'm not just talking about the musical sequences, I'm talking about the excellent score by Hans Zimmer and all the associates who work with Hans Zimmer. I have listened to the track dedicated to the burning bush sequence so many times. It's just such a beautiful, heavenly, soothing, beautiful melody. And even the filmmakers behind the scenes can attest that they wanted Hans Zimmer to make something that sounded straight from heaven itself, and he was able to do it, and they were just in awe. It's amazing. It's just one of the best musical themes for any kind of movie you'll ever hear. You'll hear it in the beginning of the movie, you'll hear it during the burning bush sequence, it shows up in leitmotifs. It's such a brilliant melody. Something else I also really admire about this movie, especially from an animation standpoint, is the body language of the different characters. There's a lot of emphasis on the body language between Moses and his wife in the scene where Moses has to tell his wife about what he's just found out, and the emotion is expressed through the music rather than what's being heard from the characters. So all we get is the music and the character's body language. And the body language is just so brilliantly portrayed. You get the implication of the relationship and this excitement that Moses is experiencing at the moment. And his wife, Zipporah, just taking it all in. And another scene I really admire from an animation standpoint is this one sequence where after Moses has to tell Ramesses that he came to get the Hebrew people free, there's this one sequence where Ramesses looks at the ring that Moses gives back to him, and he just looks at it, studies it, and he says, "I have hope." And you just see this little movement in his mouth. You don't often get that kind of nuanced movement in other movies. You get that nuanced movement with this movie, and it's such a brilliant attention to detail of characterization. I love it! I love it! I love it! Honestly, I could just go on and on. The fact that Ramesses opens his eyes to a sudden musical beat to establish, okay, he's the villain now. Or just the entire amazing spectacle of the ending where they get across the parting of the Red Sea, which took such a long time and a lot of effort to animate, and the payoff was absolutely worth it. I could mention how Moses' last words in this movie is "goodbye, brother," talking about Ramesses, who is now in ruin at the other end of the sea. But that's not the end of the movie. The last words that are spoken, not sung, spoken, are by Zipporah when she tells Moses, "Your people, they're free," re-establishing the hope and the eucatastrophe, as it were. Honestly, I could go on and on, but needless to say, Prince of Egypt, excellent movie. I give The Prince of Egypt an 11.8 out of 12. It is a masterpiece. It has a few shortcomings, yes, that can be quite distracting for some people, but honestly, these shortcomings don't detract from what is otherwise a brilliant movie that just keeps getting better the more you watch it. It's a masterpiece of a movie that people should be upholding as a standard for animated movies, and I want to see more animated movies like this. And yeah, we did get the straight-to-video prequel back in the heyday with Joseph, King of Dreams, and that was a good movie, but it wasn't as masterfully done as The Prince of Egypt. And we have an upcoming movie called Light of the World, which isn't made by Dreamworks, but it is made by former Disney animators, and even though it's on the lower budget end of things, the overall style still is taking some hints from The Prince of Egypt to its benefit. So honestly, I'd love to see more movies like The Prince of Egypt. Like, it doesn't even have to be adaptations of the Bible. I just want to see more movies with this kind of aesthetic, this kind of style, this kind of tone, something that could treat animation as high art. I just love to see that. So what do you think about the Prince of Egypt movie that hasn't been said already? Or what else would you like to describe about the movie? Let me know in the comments down below, and also pay our respects to Val Kilmer. Man, what a performance he made in this movie. Amazing stuff. He will be missed. The Iceman will be missed. ScotsThinker signing out. Pardon me, farted again. He didn't say that. Why do I always fart during these recordings?